And now President Trump is disputing the idea that he granted tariff exemptions for some electronics made in China on Friday. A U.S. Customs bulletin released said that they would be excluded, but now the president is saying there was no exception and the levies are, quote, moving to a different tariff bucket. Okay, are you following that? On Face the Nation, U.S. Trade Representative Jamieson Greer told our Margaret Brennan that there are discussions happening behind the scenes.
It's going to be up to these countries to come to the table, continue coming to the table, and make these kinds of offers. I mean, the reality is we're working around the clock, day and night, sharing paper, receiving offers, and giving feedback to these countries with respect to how they can better achieve reciprocal trade with the United States.
Nancy Cordes joins us now with more on Trump's changing, it seems, tariff policies. Nancy, good morning to you. There's been a lot of confusion because of the public statements coming from different White House entities and the governments when it comes to this potential tariff exemption for electronics. So what is the policy today and why has there been so much back and forth?
There's been so much back and forth, Errol, good morning, because when it comes to electronics in particular, there's been a major concern. The U.S. imports about 75% of its smartphones and laptops from China. So, a couple of weeks ago when the U.S. started imposing tariffs on China that have now risen to 145%, there was major concern that perhaps smartphones could go from $1,000 to $2,500 in the blink of an eye. And there was a lot of lobbying on this White House to try to exempt electronics. The president kept saying no exemptions, no exemptions. And then late Friday night, U.S. Customs puts out this bulletin saying electronics are exempt from the reciprocal tariffs on China. There was this big sigh of relief. But then come Sunday, the president says, no. There are no exemptions. We are simply removing electronics from the China bucket. We're putting them in a sector-specific bucket. As I've said all along, no exemptions. His top White House officials tried to explain all of this on the Sunday shows, but it really just feeds into this argument that Democrats have been making that it appears that a lot of this tariff policy making has been happening on the fly.
Very interesting there, Nancy. I also want to ask you about this high-level meeting. El Salvador's President Bukele will meet with President Trump today at the White House as the U.S. continues to deport migrants to the country's mega prison. So what do we expect to come out of this one-on-one?
Right. Certainly security, immigration will be topics of conversation here at the White House, a big honor for the president of El Salvador, and he's been working very closely with this White House. In fact, they just sent, they said, 10 more migrants to that prison in El Salvador over the weekend. What everyone wants to know here, of course, is whether Mr. Bukele is going to be willing to send back one of the migrants that the U.S. sent to prison, only to discover that actually there was a judge's order from 5 years ago saying that he was not to be deported to El Salvador out of concern for his safety. The Trump administration has been ordered to facilitate his return. Every day, a judge is asking top administration officials what they're doing to get him back. And they've been arguing that it simply isn't up to them anymore, that it is up to the leader of El Salvador. So if we have an opportunity to ask him about that at some point today, we will.
All right, Nancy Cordes with the latest. Thanks so much.